And welcome back, everyone, to Lantern Corps. From the greatest ever, we have the question of what is Ash Ketchum's Lantern Corps? Look, Ash is perpetually a 10-year-old kid throughout the entirety of the series. He's not going to be hitting a lot of emotional, milestones. Yeah, he's been sad before, but nothing that would constitute him being a Lantern of Sorrow. He's been ashamed of. Actually, Ash really hasn't been ashamed of much in his time. I don't really think except for losing the league the first time around. But even then, I don't think that really constitutes him being an ultraviolet. Yeah, he's a kid full of life, but he's certainly not a White Lantern. Definitely not a Black Lantern. Sure, he's got compassion, but the lanterns of compassion are a very weird one. I don't think he works towards compassion, and he's certainly not a lantern of rage either. There's a couple other ones we got to talk about, but let's get over to a few that we know he could qualify for. Will is right in the cards there. The sheer willpower it takes to become, the greatest Pokemon master ever, greatest Pokemon trainer ever. His entire story from Kanto all the way to Galar fighting Leon and basically being the top trainer ever, more or less. It's the amount of willpower and the amount of great fear he's had to overcome is insane. So Will would have to be on the cards. He wouldn't be a Lantern of Fear. No one's straight out afraid of Ash, so that doesn't work. But one that really does work in his favor is love. I mean, to be a Lantern of love, to be a Lantern of love, your love has to take many different forms. It doesn't have to. It can take many different forms. It could be romantic love, platonic love, lust, desire, all that. It can work with different forms of love. Whereas fear or will or compassion, there's not a lot of nuance in those, or rage, really. So, because of how Pokemon works, you bond, you teach me and I'll teach you. You develop these strong, close friendships, not just with his Pokemon, but also with the people in his life. I would have to say love has to be a candidate. Now, with that being said, though, what else works? Well, like I said, I don't think compassion really works. I also don't, weirdly enough, I don't think avarice works. Now, that's a weird one, especially in a Pokemon world, because you would think, gotta catch them all. That is the textbook definition of avarice in terms of, how it works. But, and, with more Pokemon being discovered, technically, there's no end to it. So there's no satisfaction in the end. But in the case of the anime, so let me put it this way: if Ash were the protagonist of one of the games and the players just trying to catch them all, hypothetically, yes, greed could work. But in terms of the anime, Ash had goals. He either met them or didn't meet them. And then what's the next adventure? That's really what it is. Greed just doesn't work. But one thing that I think does work is hope. Pretty much not quite the bare bones opposite of greed, but one where Ash always never lost faith that he could become a Pokemon master, that could become the next trainer, or next champion of someplace. That's why we had 8 series. Well, technically there's more than 8 series that take place in the same region, but 8 regions and champions and all that he, tried to become the champion of, went to the league, fought the gym battles or whatever. He actually became the champion of Alola, the first ever one. He never lost hope. He always, just was ready for the next adventure. So I would definitely put that there. Last but not least, though, at least to talk about, Gold Lanterns, Lanterns of Happiness. Now, the stipulation for Gold Lanterns, from what I can find, is the fact that you have to have been happy pretty much throughout your whole life. You never really had any wavering in your happiness, to the best of our knowledge. Or if it did, it was fleeting. The amount of happiness you must have had to completely overshadow the amount, like a 95 to 5% difference. And honestly, as we get further into the series, like when we first start the series, the amount of happiness Ash has, I think he's got a majority happiness, but it's more like a 60-40 or 75-25. There's a lot of shit he has to go through in the first season with Encanto, just because it's he's dealing with so much crap as it's his first adventure, his first Pokemon journey. And there's a lot of and plus there's the whole not making it to the through the Elite Four, not Elite Four, the Pokemon League his first time around, the depression he felt from that. So I mean that's, but as we keep getting further and further, and Ash keeps more or less just losing, but becoming more comfortable with loss, especially in the league, and understanding how powerful some of these guys are. I feel like the level of happiness starts to shift in his favor. And by the time we get to I can't remember what it was, the name of the name of the final series where he basically, he fought Leon, the Masters 8. That series. He was pretty much at that point where it's like he was never going to be bothered. At least not in the sense of his happiness coming to an immediate stop. Like nothing would really hurt his ability to be happy. So I would say if I were to weigh his happiness on a percentage scale, it's probably like 90%, 10%, which based on the rough number I gave means he's not quite at the point of being able to be a Gold Lantern. But I think it was worth discussing because obviously in the first episode, he saw Ho-Oh, which if you see Ho-Oh, technically you're supposed to be given a gift of like eternal happiness or something like that. So in theory, that should work. But I don't really think it works. I think it was just, fun to talk about. So that means our remaining three are Hope, Love, and Will. Now, between these three, which is the most likely? And that's a little tough. Because of perseverance, all that, you could make the argument for Will. I actually think Will might be the least likely. I think it comes down to Hope or Love. And if I'm going to be honest, I think it's more Hope. Because, again, Ash never really wavered in his faith or hope, really at all. And furthermore, the amount of faith and hope people put into Ash also has to be taken into consideration. Because to be a Blue Lantern, it's a combination of your own faith and hope, but also the faith and hope others put into you. So I think I'd lean towards Hope, honestly. But this is just my opinion. Let me know what you think. What do you think Ash Ketchum's Lantern Corps would be? Is it any of the four I suggested, or could he actually qualify for, I don't know, any of the remaining ones? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.